Hunter x Hunter is my second favorite shonen I have ever watched. I know, a lot of you probably think that's surprising coming from the guy who pretty regularly talks mad shit about the show. But keep in mind that in each video where I talked bad about the show, I also brought up some valid things that I thought offset these flaws, and always stressed that I loved this series. So today's video is going to be a bit of a change. Today, I want to talk about how Hunter x Hunter approached certain tropes in the shonen genre and subverted them or made improvements to them. Basically, I want to talk about how Hunter x Hunter evolved the shonen genre, starting with Hunter x Hunter is mostly comprised of four main characters. You have Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio. Each one plays an excellent role and generally subverts the generic tropes associated with said role, without being so over the top to make you think that every aspect of the character is a subversion. Let me explain. Let's start with the very first arc. Oh yeah, and spoilers ahead, obviously. The first arc is the Hunter exams, which introduces all four characters and builds a pretty interesting dynamic between them. The main dynamic being the difference in strength between the four characters. You have Gon and Killua at the top, with Killua being a little stronger than Gon at this point, and Leorio and Kurapika at the bottom, with Leorio being significantly weaker than Kurapika. Actually, being so weak as to really make you question whether or not he is worthy of being a hunter in the first place. Because, let's be honest, he was basically hard carried by Gon through most of the exams. Leading us to the end of the Hunter exams where one character has to leave. Gon gets knocked unconscious in the tournament early on while also winning, but we get a quick ending not really getting to see any of the other matches. And we find out, much to our surprise, the loser is Killua, the perceived strongest of the four characters. This is the first major subversion of the show and builds a pretty awesome secondary arc, where the characters have to go and rescue Killua from his family. This subversion is ingenious in design. Not only does it change the outcome of the arc, it creates a new secondary arc and lets the audience know that this isn't your typical shonen. It teaches in the first arc that things will not always go as planned and immediately helps immerse us even further into the narrative. This is fantastic writing with excellent forethought that seamlessly transitions the show from one arc to the other. This also teaches the audience to watch and think critically of what could potentially happen throughout the remaining arcs, making the experience of watching the show much more interactive. And may I say, this is not the only time the show does this. The same thing happens in the Rescue Killua arc and the York New City arc. In the Rescue arc, Killua's father just lets him go with Gon because he thinks it'll make Killua stronger. Instead of chasing him down and trying to kill them like we'd expect, Killua's father ends up being a relatively cool guy. A similar thing happens in the York New City arc. This arc occurs right after an arc involving only Killua and Gon. Both of them in this previous arc just got incredible power boosts and are significantly stronger than the last time the group was together. So we mistakenly assume that Killua and Gon are still the strongest in the group, only to find out that Kurapika has been training himself and became significantly stronger than those two. Being so strong as to kill one of the Phantom Troop members all by himself. These consistent, but not over-the-top subversions of the character tropes really make the viewing experience interactive, thus immersive. Now, earlier I talked about how the show perfectly transitioned from one arc to the next with the Hunter exams to the Killua rescue arc, and that's what I want to talk about next. Each one of the arcs in the Hunter x Hunter universe is its own conclusive story. The show does an incredible job clearly dividing each of these arcs while also maintaining speedy transitions between the two. There is rarely any time to breathe between the arcs, which complements the extreme nature of the show. Each arc feels completely different from the previous one, and they all have features that make them stand out from one another. But the arcs are not assembled randomly. The arcs are built in a clear pattern that always complement each other. The pattern being a serious arc, followed up by usually a training arc that is more so comical, followed up by an arc that is much more serious than the first arc, upping the ante each time. One of the best arcs in this show for me would have to be the Hunter exams. This is the first arc of the series, but really sets the standard for the show. At first, the arc gives off this lighthearted feel of a classical shonen taking place in the Renaissance era, roughly. But as the arc continues, things slowly change. First off, we are introduced to technology. Only by a little bit, but we are given the knowledge that the world is much more advanced than what we have been led on to believe thus far. Secondly, death occurs. The show is not afraid of killing off characters. Although all the characters shown dying at this point are one-off characters we don't particularly have interest in. Thirdly, and most importantly, killing is a part of this arc. I think one of the best scenes in all of Hunter x Hunter is when we first see Killua actually kill another character in the Hunter exams. It's a dark moment that changes our perspective on Killua and the show as a whole. The Hunter exams arc sets an excellent example for what to expect throughout the rest of the series, despite its original lightheartedness. I think the arc that best follows this up is York New City. This arc takes place after a relatively lighthearted arc between Killua and Gon, yet this arc is a particularly dark one. York New City is an expansion of the ideas originally brought up in the Hunter exams arc. First and foremost, we have the advancements of technology. Although, once again, technology doesn't play a massive role in the arc, it is significantly more apparent. Next is a change they make to death in this arc. Previously, one-off characters are the only ones we've seen die so far, but this is the first arc where we see supporting characters get killed. Characters we've established relationships with and know the names of. And finally, our relationship with killing changes once again. Kurapika kills off another main character in a relatively brutal way. Once again, most of the characters killed off by our cast so far are basically nameless foes, but this changes it. These are all stepping stones that change the feel of the show and not only help us push the narrative forward, but alters our expectations of what could happen. So what I think really elevates Hunter x Hunter over most shonen anime is the villains involved. Now, I am only going to be talking about Hisoka and Chrollo in this video because my opinions on Miriam are already pretty well known. Hisoka and Chrollo are both pretty unique antagonists in the way that they are presented. Both show signs of being evil, but neither are evil for the sake of being evil. Hisoka merely wants to find opponents who can fight on his level and entertain him. That's really it. But he'll go through some pretty extreme lengths to ensure that will happen. There are multiple situations where the antagonist of the arc, Hisoka, goes out of his way to help Gon and his friends, only in hopes of making Gon strong enough to be a worthy opponent. He's not just evil and hunting people for fun. The only time we see him actively kill people without reason is in the first arc, and the show is trying to establish that he is an evil character. Even in the final arc, he's killing for the sake of self-preservation, which is, once again, in line with his character. Hisoka is a completely irrational antagonist that foils Gon perfectly. Chrollo, on the other hand, is more so of an antagonist towards Kurapika. We don't spend nearly as much time with him as we do with Hisoka, but once again, he is of a similar build. He has his own objective and set morals that he follows. He's a much more mysterious and unpredictable antagonist, but it fits, and he plays his role well. He's honestly one of the most terrifying antagonists I've seen in a shonen anime. These two together are the lead antagonists for most of the show's runtime and really enhance every arc they are involved in. The fact that they are perfect counters to their respective protagonists make each arc just that much better. So what am I getting at with this video? So far, all I've made are observations about the show and explained how they enhance my experience. And that's exactly my point. Hunter x Hunter changed the shonen game by being ambitious and ignoring the standard shonen formulas, showing that not only can you make a successful long-running shonen that doesn't fall into these classic tropes, but also make one that is so innovative that it becomes perhaps one of the most popular shonen in existence. Hunter x Hunter really laid the groundwork for this new wave of shonen anime that will fundamentally change our views on anime as a whole. And that is how Hunter x Hunter evolved the shonen genre. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this relatively long video. I haven't made a longer video in a while, and I was originally going to do a two-parter on this, but I figured you guys would just like a longer video instead, so I went with that. Sorry about not uploading last week. I'm not gonna lie or front or anything. I just took the week off. I went sleeping. I was gonna say like camping or something, but I really didn't do anything eventful. I just slept. Also, I finally got my streamer setup done. Wait, 1 second. 1 second. Wait. There we go. Is it glowing yet? I'm a real gamer now, guys. But I'm gonna be streaming more on Twitch and be gaming, which I haven't done in quite some time. I'll be doing the BioShock series along with a few other games. So if you wanna join me, go ahead and follow me on Twitch. I'll have a link in the description down below. A huge shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you guys for putting up with my shit. If you're interested in seeing how I edit, chatting with me, or just supporting the channel, I run a $1 a month Patreon to make that as easy as possible. Make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys say, man, go watch that goddamn anime!